Bhattacharya sir, good evening, Luthra.
Luthra sahab, good evening. Tyagi.
Hi Tyagi sahab, good evening. How are you?
Fine, fine.
कहाँ बैठे हो? लखनऊ में हो?
हाँ, लखनऊ.
लखनऊ तो बहुत बड़ा है, ये अपने घर में बैठे हैं पिछले 1 साल क्या गलत बोला राजीव?
3 महीने से अभी हैदराबाद थे पहले.
अच्छा, वहां भी घर में ही थे.
वो बात ठीक है.
ये अपना स्पीकर जमालपुर में है क्या उस वक्त?
Ajay has joined. Ajay.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Hi Ajay.
Good evening, Ajay. But we cannot. Can we see you?
Yes, yes. I can see.
अच्छा, गैलरी व्यू करेंगे तो.
Ranshu, I read your blog on Mother's Day. Very nicely written.
By my wife, sir.
वाइफ ने लिखा? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
मैं यही सोच रहा था किसने लिखा. तुमने लिखा कि तुम्हारी बहुत अच्छा लिखा. Very nice.
Her blogs are really good.
चलिए सर. So, Amitabh, we can start, right? We can start. वो Ajay will be using some. Ajay will use some slides, right?
Yeah,
Sir,
I will be using some slides.
तो तुम
Sir,
तो you can use. You can share, ना?
sir, namaskar.
शेयर करा देते हैं.
नहीं, वो तुम वहीं से कर लेना, तुम शेयर.
Yes, sir.
हाँ, और उसको होस्ट भी बना दे. अच्छा.
हाँ,
Let
होस्ट
us
भी
start,
बना.
sir. We welcome Ajay Nandan, previously EDME Freight, now Senior Professor IRIMI, and he has kindly consented to give a talk on the scenario of freight wagons in India today. I welcome you all. We are going through a very sad time and bad time, and each one of us should stay at home. That is one advice. And before taking much of your time, I would request Ajay to start his talk so that we are enlightened on the scenario of freight wagons in India. Ajay, to you. Request.
लोग अपने ऑडियो वीडियोस ऑफ कर दें so that the
ऑडियो को ऑफ कर दें, वीडियो तो दिखना चाहिए हम लोग को.
Yes, sir.
ये बताओ इसमें मेरा वीडियो.
Sir, ये screen share नहीं हो पा रहा है, तो sir, is it okay if I speak straight away without?
कर दिया क्या?
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, what I will do is, sir, I'm going to talk about the freight wagons in India. So I will start from the background and what is there and what is there on the horizon, and then I will basically talk about two dilemmas that all railway people have today and have had for some time. So what I name the dilemmas as the 14% dilemma and the capital dilemma. So,
Ajay, 1 minute. Why are you not able to share screen here?
Sir, it says that the host has disabled.
तो होस्ट को बोलो ना, वो स्लाइड
Yes, sir.
में दिखानी हो. अमिताभ.
Sir, slide में ज़्यादा कुछ है नहीं sir, तो.
अच्छा, anyway, because it says Ajay Nandan is host now, you are yourself a host.
Yes, sir. But in any case, sir, slide से ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता. So as you all know, sir, the total holding on Indian railway system today is about 3.3 lakh wagons, out of which something like 35,000 are owned by various private entities, and majority of them by container corporation. So when we say private sector, then we basically are saying that these are non-railway entities. They are not Indian Railway, and there are others who are holding something like 35,000, which works out to something like about slightly more than 10% of the total holding of wagons that Indian railway system has. If you look at the type-wise holding, so that this works out to about 80% wagons which are either general purpose or multi-purpose. And I'm not counting the container wagons in this, because containers, we say that these are special purpose wagons. So open, covered, flats, tanks, and some of the hoppers. So one can say that these are multi-purpose, and they would constitute something like 80% of the wagons. And most of these are, as you saw, about 90% of IR ownership. And amongst the general purpose and multi-purpose wagons, almost 95, 98, 99% of wagons are basically Indian Railway owned, because even though we have a general purpose wagon investment scheme, it is in a very nascent stage, and not many wagon, the wagon population is not significant to make any change in the ownership pattern, largely owned by this. On an average, something like 13,600 wagons have been inducted on Indian Railway system over past about 15 years. And about 2,000 wagons, out of these, about 2,000 wagons on an average are being inducted by the private sector on an average. Even though one can say that in 1819, something like 3,500 wagons, and 1920, 4,000 plus wagons were added, and the number of total wagons inducted, in fact, had gone up to as high as 28% of total wagons being inducted by various private entities. So one can see that as the new policies, the AFTO, SFTO, LWIS, GPWI, etc., have been introduced, and their reforms or their modifications based on feedback from industry has happened, there was a trend of increasing the private wagon procurement, and this had gone right up to 28% of total procurement in 1920. Of course, there has been a big dip in 2021, which can be attributed largely to the COVID-related economic slowdown or economic shock that the industry has received. Despite that, during 2021, 2,500 wagons have been inducted by the private sector. So one can expect that once the effect of COVID pandemic goes away, the private sector investment in wagons would not only be restored to 28%, but maybe it can even increase in future. So this is the scenario where the interest of private sector in investing in wagons has been going up over the years, and is likely to be further growing in the coming years if we discount the COVID period. Approximately 3,000 wagons are being condemned every year. So this will basically mean that net addition of something like 10,000 plus wagons every year can be expected if things go as usual, and if the total investment from private sector goes up, leading to more wagons being procured, then this 10,000 can go to maybe 12,000 or 15,000. We have actually in the past seen number of wagons inducted right up to 18,000 wagons in 2011-12. So one can expect that if those kind of wagon numbers are again achieved, we will have a large number of wagons being inducted every year, and probably the industry, private sector will be inducting something like 50% of the wagons. So let me come to the freight scenario, the existing scenario. That thing I was talking about was the 14% dilemma. Now, this is a frequent statement made in almost all logistics circuit meetings, that the cost of logistics in India is about 14% of GDP. Now, this cost is of the order of about 6 to 8% in advanced railway system, that the European or American and so on. So the criticism of Indian Railway services, largely you can say traffic, but yes, as mechanical engineers, since we are provider of coaches and wagons and are actively involved in the earning assets of railways, so we also feel that we are somehow or the other involved in it. To my mind, this theory that since the cost of logistics is 14% as against 6 to 8% in other advanced systems, it is probably a mistake by all of us, and we should all be ashamed of our performance of 14% cost of logistics. Now, if you take it in a light-hearted way, one can say that this theory has probably been coined to rub down the noses of all the IRTS, IRSME, and other railway service officers, that look what you have brought the country to, because you are something like 100% more inefficient than other advanced railway systems. And I firmly believe that this is one statement that should be always refuted by all proud railwaymen wherever that is made. Now, why I'm saying it is that if you say it is 14% of GDP, and if you get into the nuance of it, you will realize that is 14% is not a number, but it's a ratio. And this ratio is of the cost of logistics and the cost of GDP. Now, if you know, if you see, the cost of GDP would essentially mean the basket of commodities that we carry. So if the basket of commodity that we carry has a certain cost, and if the cost of that commodity goes up, the percentage is likely to come down. And on the other side, if the basket of commodity that is being carried by rail transport is cheaper, then in that case the ratio will be higher. So if you look at it, then any strategy to make Indian Railways more efficient and more productive for the economy will have to work on both sides or both ends of the ratio. That is, one will have to work on the numerator to reduce the actual freight rates or the passenger rates, and on the other side, we will also have to work on the denominator to ensure that we start carrying those goods which are of higher cost. So therefore, the dependence of railways on particularly carrying the cheaper commodities like coal, iron ore, bauxite, and other raw materials which are necessarily much cheaper than the finished goods like the finished steel, automobile, FMCG goods, food items, food grains, packaged food, and all these kind of things. Now, therefore, the focus of railways will have to be on both sides of the ratio, and we cannot keep on harping about improving the productivity or improving the throughput, improving the turnaround at the terminals, quicker loading, unloading, lower cost of manufacturing of wagons, lower cost of maintenance, extending the maintenance periodicity, and more standardization. Of course, these are measures that will work on the numerator of the ratio, but we would need to basically work on both sides, and that is something that is now appearing to be the focus on railways, because increasingly when we are seeing that the new investments are being planned, there is a lot of work going on to bring in new traffic. Although the new traffic, the results in getting the new traffic, particularly in those areas like the FMCG and all that, is something that is in a very initial stage, and we have not had much success in it. But this is something that is a thought that we must have, and we have to be basically always working on this, and we have to always refute this logic that because our cost of logistics is 14%, we are not good. Our cost of logistics is affected not only by our freight rates, but also is affected by the kind of commodities that are offered to us for transportation. And if people are only offering coal and iron ore, then there is no way the ratio can be as good as Europe or America, where large number of high cost and high value goods are transported through railways, and therefore they get the advantage from the denominator and are able to achieve a much lower ratio of the cost of logistics vis-a-vis the cost of GDP. So this is one dilemma that we have, and therefore let us come to the how it is affecting and how it has been recognized in the National Rail Plan. Now, the National Rail Plan is right now under preparation, and the final draft plan was submitted to Railway Board in December 2020. Now, this National Rail Plan says that the total freight demand in the country is about 4,700 million tons, out of which something like 1,200 is being carried by railways. Now, the National Rail Plan is coming
Your video is frozen, Ajay.
I can't also hear him. Can you
Yeah,
hear him?
it's frozen. We can't hear him. Ajay, your video and audio both are gone.
Yeah, he's in Jabalpur, no?
To a conclusion after detailed study to go up to 15,500 million. So then the national strategy how to maximize something that the rate trails to 50% is something that, and together with and yes sir.
No,
Sir,
Ajay, can you repeat the last 2-3 minutes because we had lost your video and audio. At last 2 minutes, can you start from last 2 minutes once again, please?
You had said that total demand of traffic is 4,700 in the plan, and railways is picking up 1,200 tons. After that, we lost you.
Yes. So what the plan says is that as of 2019, the total freight demand was 4,700 million tons in the country, out of which something like 1,200 million tons was carried by railways, about 26-27% of it. So that is the current status as of now. And the plan says that the total demand is expected to go to 15,500 million tons by 2050. So that is the projection that they have made based on the average study of the average CAGR of different industries, and then past CAGR of different type of commodities that railways have seen in the past 10 years. So this analysis has, by this analysis, they have come to a conclusion that the net traffic demand would be going to 15,500 million tons. Now, the existing share of 26%, therefore, can increase to 30% or 40%. They have analyzed different scenarios. The business as usual scenario, which says that the share will, in fact, reduce if we don't increase the speed. If we increase the speed, it will become from 26 to 28. If we increase the, if we don't increase the speed and if we don't change the rates, then in that case, it will remain nearly same or it will go slightly down. If we simply give some rebate, but don't change the speed, don't reduce the speed, then it will marginally increase from 26 to about 28. And if we marginally increase from 26 to 30, and if we increase the speed as well as we reduce the freight, in that case, we can go to 44%. So the best estimate is 44%, and the worst case estimate or the second best estimate is 30% of share. Now, if you look at the 30% share at that time in 2050, the rail traffic will go to 4,700 million tons. And if you take at that the best scenario where we are increasing the speed to 50 kmph as well as we are reducing the freight by about 30%, then in that case, the traffic will go to 6,700 metric ton. So in an average kind of, you can say there's something like 5,000 metric ton or 5,500 million tons is something that we are looking at. And we say that in next 30 years, the total traffic carried by railways will have to increase by at least 4 times, if not 5 times or more. So in order to tackle that traffic, the projections come to a conclusion that the number of wagons required will be will have to increase from the current 3 lakh to about 10.5, 11 lakh wagons. And amongst the various type of commodities that have been projected to be increased is the containers, fuel, other goods, and cement, and most of the non-conventional commodities. The share of coal will come from the present 33-35% to something like 22 or 23% in the next 30 years. Even though the coal traffic is not expected to be reducing in totality, there would be some marginal increase in the coal traffic, but the coal traffic will, as a commodity, will be going down to about 22%. So how does it look at? So if you look at the cost of coal and look at the cost of freight, then you would realize that in terms of the golden ratio of 14% that we had come, coal is actually contributing to your turnover at something like 40 to 50%. So when you talk of 14%, the coal net cost of logistics, including the rail fare, divided by the value of coal that is invoiced to the customer at whatever lead we are, on average lead we are offering, will work out to something like 40 to 50% is the cost of logistics out of the total cost of coal at the end user side. On the other hand, if you analyze the cost of automobile transportation, so I had once been a discussion with some of the automobile operators, and one of the friends who is leading one of the AFPOs. I asked him that how does it look like? Why do everybody says that 14% is the cost of logistics? What is your cost of logistics as a percentage of the invoice value of your cars? And he did an analysis of something like about 1.5 years of the traffic of that particular firm. And he concluded that the cost of logistics for the AFPO's automobile cars, after including the first mile, last mile, as well as the cost divided by the total invoice value of the car, works out to only 2.75%. So the value of the cars that they are transporting and the total transportation cost they are charging their customers, the ratio is only 2.75%. So when you are talking of 14% logistics cost, ratio of logistics cost versus the cost of GDP, then you can see that coal on the one hand is contributing to the basket at the rate of between 40 to 50%, while the commodity, which is the most sophisticated commodity that so far we are carrying, which is at the other end, that is only contributing at the rate of 2.75% and is making its best effort to bring down the average from 45 to 14. So one can see that if you take different commodities and if you really want to bring down 14%, you will have to capture traffic of those items where the cost of logistics as a percentage of its cost of the commodity itself has to be a mix of such products which are highly valuable in nature, so that the cost of logistics as a percentage of the cost of the consignment has to be much lower than 6 to 8% that we are targeting. And to this end, it is very, very essential that we start looking at those kind of items which are very costly. For example, liquid oxygen that today we are carrying is a very costly commodity. And if we are able to include that, even though not at the rate of a rake per day, but in a container rake, if we are able to just include, say, 4 or 6 or 8 containers of liquid oxygen, that will lead to increase in the cost of consignment carried and will work towards bringing the 14% together. Now, if you look at this scenario and look at what the National Rail Plan is seeing, you will realize that what National Rail Plan is seeing, without admitting the effect of cost of logistics ratio, is only saying that you have to containerize large number of items, you have to go for POL, you have to go for other goods, which may include the other various finished goods, the FMCG, the food, packaged food, and these kind of items. And basically what we are targeting now is we are targeting in a big way to get into that area, which contributes to me in the range of 3 to 6 or 3 to 7% of cost of logistics ratio. So this is what the National Rail Plan is also talking about. Although the rationale for this is not written anywhere, but the core principle that we are looking at now is that if we really want to be proud as an Indian railway system, where our cost of logistics is 6 to 8% as there in the American and European markets, we have to have such kind of commodities increasingly included into our system, which give us a ratio of something like 3 to 6%. And we should not be very much concerned about growing the traffic of coal and other coal, limestone, iron ore, and these kind of other materials, which are basically very low cost and the cost of logistics as a percentage of their cost, which is always going to be much higher than 14 and even to the level of between 30 to 60%, depending upon the type of commodity that we are talking about. So just one minute. JP, my class now. I have a class. So that is what the national rail plan also seems to be talking. So then, sir,
Ajay, PN Shukla this side. How are you?
Sir.
You see, you have made a very valid point that we are unable to target the high end of the cargo, the very high value cargo to ultimately bring down the logistics cost. This is so important, and I don't think it requires any special understanding. But the point is, why we are not able to break our legacy? Our legacy has been that the parcel business or automobile business, although it is growing by road, but it is not coming to rail. And even parcel cargo in last 7-8 years, it has come down by almost 30%. Instead of increasing,
I am not able to listen to you, sir.
The parcel cargo or automobile traffic, there has been some increase, but other than
sir, am I able to
traffic,
am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are audible, Ajay.
You are audible, and we can hear Mr. Shukla also.
So my point is that we have to look for some different ways of attracting this traffic, and we have to see that how our competitor, that means road, is able to attract this traffic, and we are unable to do it. We can see on road the high volume containers now moving, and much of this traffic is either high volume cargo or it is FMCG cargo, which requires faster transit, and also it is high volume. So it cannot be equated in terms of tonnage. When we talk of like automobile wagon, we see automobile wagon stair weight is 35 tons and the chargeable weight is only 15 tons. This is the first time railways have recognized that the increasing the minimum chargeable weight doesn't necessarily increase to attracting traffic. So it required a special type of rolling stock where we could increase the volume. It could be and the chargeable weight would be low. And the same thing is happening on road. What road is doing is that they are increasing the volume of the containers which they are carrying, which is ultimately bringing down the unit cost of transportation also. If the volume is high, the weight is low, ultimately the unit cost of transportation or the operator also will come down. So therefore, we have been stuck with the height of wagon of 4.265 meters, which was there during steam days. Even we could not accommodate these double stack dwarf containers, which means we have to go to a height of 4.7, 4.8 meters. So ultimately what it means is that lightweight commodity needs higher volume carrier. And higher volume carrier is the need of the time for attracting the high end of the cargo and also reducing the cost of reducing the time of operation. That is second part. There are two parts. One is reducing the unit cost of operation.
I go have chai now.
Okay.
Dadaji ko bye bye
is bringing down the transit time. So transit time part is being taken care of by assets like a dedicated freight corridor, etc. But unless we ultimately bring down the unit cost of operation, it is not going to help us even with freight corridor. So what is required is a new design of rolling stock where we can go to a height at a different height, which can accommodate high dwarf containers double stack, which can accommodate high cube parcel van, which can accommodate high cube even automobile wagon. Even our automobile wagon of 4.3 meters or 4.4 meters is inadequate.
Yeah,
Because sometimes we do not get the return cargo on the same wagon. Had it been
for admission in hospitals,
hello.
There is somebody, there is some cross talk. Please, everyone go on mute. We are hearing a lot of domestic talk here. Please.
So the point which I am trying to address is that there's need of for attracting light cargo, for attracting perishable wagon, perishable cargo, for attracting white goods, for attracting automobile traffic, etc. We need a different moving dimension now. The moving dimension of 4.265 has outlived its utilization. It is okay as far as coal is concerned, for steel, etc., for food grain, all this is okay. But when we are talking of high value cargo, and we are also talking of a faster transit time, the first requirement is high volume wagon, high volume rolling stock, which may be competitive with road. The first
now
thing
can we hear Ajay on this?
Yeah, Ajay, can you come? Ajay, can you come here? Can you come, please?
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir, now?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I'll just add one more sentence rather.
Sir,
when we are electrifying our routes, the new routes are completely electrified, end-to-end electrification. The standard height permitted is 5.4 meters for electrification. We are unable to exploit even the standard height permitted for electrification, and which is also coming in our way, not only of goods stock, but even of coaching stock.
Yes,
so
sir.
my point
I'm
is
making a difference.
think the height permitted of wagons, maybe we have to do one-time improvement in our obstacles, in our obstructions en route, and then only we will be able to compete with road, which really addresses the issue of reducing unit cost of operation, and also the infrastructure like freight corridor can best be used only if we are able to reduce the unit cost of operation. So that is all I wanted to add here.
Yes, sir. Sir, for all of you, sir, let me tell you frankly that what I am saying and what I am coming towards is something that is completely out of the box. And one person who has pushed me towards this line of thought is Mr. P.N. Shukla, sir, who has been having very intense discussion on various topics. And although many times we agreed, sometimes sir became annoyed with me. But the one person who I will treat as my guru in this area of thought, where I have ultimately found myself and I am speaking to you, is Mr. P.N. Shukla, who has actually given a lot of inputs in terms of points to ponder. So, sir, my case is that all of us are too much focused towards productivity. We are only too much focused towards productivity, and what is happening is that all of us, be it the traffic service officers or be it the mechanical engineers, all of us are being rubbed down on the false logic of this 14%, which says that since you are 14%, you are no good, you are worthless. And so this is what something that I strongly object to, and that is why I'm making the case that while all the efficiency, productivity, reliability, and these issues will matter, but will matter only towards improving the numerator. And we are likely to get much faster and much better results if we also look at very closely at the denominator. So there cannot be a single strategy that you keep on working on the numerator, but you also have to look very carefully at the denominator. Sir, I also concede that the national rail plan draft that has been made, that is being made. Eventually, the national rail plan is also conceding this idea that if railway has to grow, if it has to grow in market share of the freight demand, then it has to work on both ends of the ratio. It not only has to increase the throughput and the efficiency of operation for those items which are contributing at the rate of more than 14%. But if you are able to get those items which are contributing, to you in the region of 8% or lower, then it is worthwhile even if we have to compromise on the efficiency and productivity. This mad rush to increase throughput, to improve terminal maintenance, to reduce the cost of wagon, to reduce the cost of maintenance, to reduce the time of maintenance, this mad rush is not going to take us anywhere. This is my case, sir. While, sir, Mr. P.N. Shukla has said a lot of points, I agree. These points are very valid, and these points are very valid. These points are actually going to help us improve the numerator, and by reducing the numerator, it will have. But the size of the GDP is such that any change in GDP, because if it is, suppose even at now, if it is 14%, if you are able to increase the cost of the GDP, since its size is much bigger, a 1% change is going to give you much better dividend in terms of reducing the over ratio than the 1% change in the numerator, which is very small in any case. So that's my case, sir. I don't disagree that we need new wagons, we need more productive wagons, we need higher SOD, we need preferably. I would love if we start on a program to remove all the OHE all over Indian Railways in order to get a standard ISOD of 5400 mm. So that is something that I would love to see when railway also decides that we will remove all the OHE wires in order to increase the standardize the SOD of 7 meters all over Indian Railways. But that is something that is a separate chapter, that is a separate debate, and that is a separate proposal altogether, which has to be considered in different lights. What I am saying is, I am only saying that we are very, very concerned about 14%, and unfortunately, this logic has been used by all others to run all railway service officers, be it traffic or be it mechanical, as inefficient and good for nothing, only by saying that 14% and without recognizing the fact that this 14% is there because we have only the cheap type of commodities that can be offered. The costlier commodities are not being either produced by that kind of volume, are not being produced and transported across the domestic sector. So that is why we are having such a poor ratio of 14%, and we are not able to achieve. And as a railwayman, if we really want to have railway growing up, then we have to consciously work towards improving not only the numerator but also the denominator.
I have answer of your 14%.
Yes, sir.
Ajay,
I have answer of your 14%.
Sir, all of you.
Ajay,
Yes,
I have one question. I'll take it from what Luthra has written.
Sir, just a minute, sir. Can we let Ajay complete his talk?
I thought, yeah. I'm sorry.
Sir, I have read what Luthra sir has written, sir.
Yeah. So, anyway, you complete we'll come to that later.
Well, first, I would request everybody that let Ajay complete his talk. We will have a time for question and answer after that.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Including the questions that have been on the chat.
Yes, sir. So, so therefore, if you really want to improve on 14%, you will have to go for two types of strategy: reducing the cost of logistics per se and increasing the cost of GDP. That means increasing the increasing the cost of the commodity basket that you are going to carry, and which will essentially mean that you have to bring in more and more such category of items which are into the finished good category, or even at if not finished good, at least intermediate goods. For example, you can get into carrying aluminium, and if you are not getting aluminium, you can get into alumina instead of carrying that kind of. Even though we already transport a lot of alumina. So therefore, the new wagon development that is there for us to do, the process of new wagon development is guided by, on the one hand, increasing the productivity in terms of throughput, handling time, speed, reliability, and all that, and reducing the cost of maintenance and cost of manufacturing. But equally important is going to be introducing special purpose wagons for the non-conventional commodities, which are going to be in the category of finished goods and at least be intermediate goods and not just be the raw materials. So that is the first thought that I am presenting, sir. The second is that so therefore the new wagon developments which has been going on will have to go towards the first. Of course, you have DFCs coming up, so the wagons for 25-ton axle load will be needed. But at the same time, you will have to have a large number of new wagon varieties for transporting new conventional commodities. And examples can be the LNG or liquefied oxygen, liquid nitrogen, and all these kind of things. And then the FMCG goods, the new parcel commodity, parcel trains, and and other such products as which are in the category of finished goods. Like we have recently at RDSO recently designed the BF-NV wagon, which is one case where RDSO has taken up this challenge. Let me give some background on this. The BFNS wagon was designed something in 1997, which was a 13.5 meter long wagon and was able to carry steel coils, both HRC and CRC, without any need for dunnage. Now, this wagon being 13.5 meter long was only procured 700 numbers till about 2016-17, when Indian Railway decided to buy 500 numbers more. But at the same time, Indian Railway also permitted this wagon as a special purpose wagon to be procured and allowed it to be procured by private entities under the SFTO policy. And after this, a number of at least JSW and Tata Steel, both their logistics provider companies, bought these wagons. And the interest in that wagon was was not very much. So what RDSO had decided was that RDSO designed the BFNS 22.9 also, which is a wagon which is of the length of only the Boxen wagon length, that is 10.5 meters, and which were designed at the specific request of Tata Steel, who were making the Kalinganagar plant at that time, whose 90% of the product was going to be the CRC and HRC, mainly HRC coils. So this wagon was suddenly coming up, which could transport instead of 2,700 tons by BFNS conventional, but while this wagon was going to give you something like the BFNS M wagon was going to give you something like 4,000 tons of throughput. And this throughput suited Kalinganagar plant very well. So the moment the wagon was offered, Kalinganagar, the Tata Steel's logistics partner, Tata Martrade, started buying these wagons and were gung-ho about this wagon. But when we talked to JSW Steel said that our owner, Mr. Sajjan Mintal, says that I do not want this wagon. I want a wagon which is of the European style. Now, when he said European style, initially there was some resentment and we started looking at what does he mean by European style. What he meant at that time was that his major product that he wants to distribute across the country is CRC. Now, if you have CRCs come in the coil size of something like 8 to 14 tons only, and they are not something like 28 and 32 ton coils. So if you want to load CRC, you have a limitation on BFNS M wagon that you cannot load more than this many coils, because there is only one single groove which will get filled and you will not be able to load up to the CC capacity. So they wanted a facility where the total length of the grooves where you load the coil has to be more. And number one, since CRCs are very, very sensitive to handling costs, they wanted to handle these CRCs using forklift trucks. So what they were saying was that the BFNS M wagon that you have designed with box and length, even with 4,000 ton gauge, since we are handling mostly CRC, we will not be able to utilize the full CC. And also, by handling the coils by using cranes, we would probably be damaging a large number of coils, and we would be leading to our transit losses. So eventually they said that whatever type of wagon you want, you please propose under the private wagon design policy. And BFNV wagon was proposed something like first half of 2018, and the final speed certificate after trials have just been issued. In fact, when the lockdown was being imposed last year, that day the RDSO team was doing the load testing of the prototype. So this wagon is something of an example that when we designed the BFNS M wagon.
What is length of this wagon?
BFNV is same as BFNS M, 10.5 meters, the box and length. So the throughput is only marginally changed over the BFNS M wagon, that is around 4100 tons again. But the only thing is, since it has side grooves, if you can load more number of smaller coils, and you have the facility of handling the coils using forklift trucks, and you have the option of doing both. You can use a forklift truck or EOT crane. So a CRC coil handled by a forklift truck is less likely to be damaged than a CRC coil handled by a EOT crane. So they wanted this. So this is something that is going to become the norm for the industry, where when you start asking them to come and give you the special purpose finished good or intermediate good category of transportation, which require much careful handling, and therefore they would want new type of wagons. And that is why it is very, very important for us to be very nimble footed in either offering our own designs which are suitable for their requirements, or very nimbly accepting their design proposal and bringing it to on the ground as required by them and as designed or as asked for them by them. So this is something that is going to be of very, very big importance in introducing the non-conventional traffic. On the other hand, there is another case that if you are getting a non-conventional traffic, which is in any case, even while being less productive than what you have conceived that it should be your ideal productivity, even then, so long as it is giving you 4 to 6% logistics cost as a percentage, you should go ahead with and stop bothering about productivity in the non-conventional commodities. Let the productivity be kept reserved, productivity criteria be kept reserved for those items which are contributing at higher than 14%, but anything which is giving you lower than 14%, productivity can be ignored, so long as you are getting the traffic at the terms that the customer is asking you for. And that is why when we are designing, let us say, a parcel wagon, in that parcel wagon, we should not be looking at the productivity aspect, that in a rake we should be able to carry 30 multiplied by 25 tons or 25 multiplied by 25 tons. Precisely your point, sir, what you have been saying it, I am saying it in a different way. That if we are getting the parcel traffic, which will likely to be most probably the packaged food and FMCG and these kind of things, then we should stop looking at the productivity of the utilization of the wagon and should not be insisting that it must be 30 multiplied by 25 tons and cannot be 25 multiplied by 25 tons. So we should get away the mindset of getting into the productivity and efficiency of the transportation, so long as we are getting into a traffic mode which is of a non-conventional commodity which earlier we were not carrying. And at the same time, if this is giving us a logistics cost ratio of less than 14%, we should go for it even with a unproductive or less productive wagon. So that is my case is we should focus on the total ratio and should not focus on either the denominator or the numerator separately.
Yeah, I would like to amend you. It cannot be called unproductive. You see, it is productive because production doesn't mean
in comparison to what is my ideal. Okay.
You see, ideals change because ideal for coal wagon, air weight is 22 tons and carried weight is 78 tons. But how can it be for automobile wagon? The total gross weight is The tier weight is 35 tons and you yourself, railways charges 15 tons. So how can it be? They have themselves accepted this logic.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes,
logic has already
Sir, just
defied
a moment, sir.
railways mind.
Sir,
This
Shukla sir,
logic is already accepted for automobile business.
yes, sir.
You charge only 15 tons.
Mr.
Yes,
Shukla,
sir.
Sir, you carry only
My case is that. That is
Can
what
we
my
wait?
case is. So long as we are getting a non-conventional traffic which is high value in nature and is going to contribute at a rate lower than 14%, we should be focused now on the 14% ratio, not only on the numerator of the ratio.
I'm only saying that automobile experiment should go on vigorously now, because 2%, you have yourself said that 2% is the logistics cost for automobiles. Now,
Yes, sir.
But
this
it's
is
a
already
counter
accepted
logic,
by
sir. It's a
railway.
counter logic.
It has
It's
to
a
be
counter
vigorously
logic.
pursued.
It's a counter logic. Railway will go bankrupt.
hello.
It's a counter logic.
May
I seek
Yeah, Amitabh.
2-3 clarifications, Mr. Ajit.
अच्छा, मैं करता हूँ.
Yes, sir.
Ajay, I wanted to talk something, call something.
Please.
Ajay.
You see, I wanted to know in USA or Australia, where long haul trains run, they run mostly with minerals, etc. What is the logistic cost there? Is it like 14% like in our case, or it is 7 to 8%?
Oh, sir.
This is number one question. Second is you have mentioned about car carrier. Railway get 2% of the freight as logistic cost. What is the rate of freight by rail in the case of cars and by road also? Which one is higher? Now you are saying it is 2%. This 2%, how does it compare vis-a-vis the same one, say, rake of coal is run in the same route for same distance? Earning wise, which one is more profitable for Indian Railways?
The coal will always be profitable, but coal is not there on all routes.
Sir,
Sir,
sir, let me answer.
No.
just
Sir,
a
let
moment,
me-
sir.
Gentlemen, 1 second, please. 1 second. Ajay, you will please answer the question of Mr. Ghosh
Yes, sir.
Dasgidar. And after that, I request all of you to please write your question in the chat box to avoid any crosstalk. And Amitabh will look at your question and raise your question to Ajay. So kindly answer the question of Mr. Ghosh Dasgidar.
Yes.
And after that, questions, I request please type it in the chat box, which Amitabh will take up further. Thank you.
Yes. Sir,
Yes.
sir, when we say it is 14% in our country, the similar average basis,
Forget about average 14%, etc.
average is 14% for us.
What I am
Similarly,
interested to
average
know-
is something like 7-8% for Americans. Europeans are even
In
lower.
USA, the mineral lines, there the logistic cost is 7%, 14%, or 40% like ours.
What I'm saying is, sir, the average logistics cost of the entire AR network.
No, that's all right. I am specifically comparing two important commodities. You will find there the logistic cost in those minerals also, it is of the order of 7-8%. Reason?
No, sir.
Main reason is
by very nature of it, the logistics cost of coal and minerals is going to be much higher than the average logistics cost for the Americans also. It may be a case that since they are running long haul and very long trains and with a higher, maybe slightly higher average speed, their logistics cost
not
would not
slightly
be
higher, much higher average speed, much higher axle load.
Yes, sir.
That is
Whatever
why they are
yes, sir.
achieving much
Therefore,
better turnaround, and that is why overall logistic cost is much lower. In Indian
Sir.
Railways, our average speed is now 25. It reached up to 25. Now it has started falling. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Whereas in case of DFC, I designed the average speed should be 65. Shukla is there. She knows, he was the director operation. 65 to 70 easily. Automatically, the logistics cost they are, if in our case, in our system, it is say 40 rupees, it will come down in that system by 1/3, say 13, 14 rupees. So it is, and in case of car, you are saying it is high priced, high commodity, high priced commodity, and it will yield more freight to the railways. I am sure vis-a-vis car and any other traffic which railway is doing, which is low commodity, car is paying much less. If the high value car is very costly, I charge 5%, which is better than the European logistic, but will they pay? They will not pay. So it is not that easy solution. First of all, our axle load has to increase. Our standard moving dimension also had to be increased. That in 2005-06, I with Mr. Jaruhar increased it by 1 feet and designed the high yielding box and wagons, which accommodate like box and BCM wagons accommodate 60 wagons in a train length. So these are the things you will have to find out, some ways and means of reducing the overall cost of logistics, overall cost of transportation.
Sir, sir, what I am saying is that there were two questions. One is that whether it is 6 to 8%. You are right, sir, that in American system also, their transportation logistics cost for the minerals, etc., would be much higher than 6 to 8% and would be probably lower than our 40 to 60%. That is agreed.
It will not be much higher than 6 to 8%.
It will be, sir.
No, it will not be. You kindly check up because you have access to different data. Kindly have a company.
Sir, their pay-to-pay ratio is 2.5 is the best.
Please avoid crosstalk. Please come through the chat box.
Please write in the chat box.
Please write in the chat box, and
Ajay,
will call you.
The second thing is, sir, I am not saying that we do not have to increase the productivity. We do not have to take the reduce the cost. What I am saying is,
see, our average speed is less than 25, 24. It is putrid. With this average speed, nothing can be transported at a cheaper cost. We have to increase it to 40 to 50 kmph minimum.
Yes, sir.
For that, even now with our existing traffic load, if we switch over very conveniently, it is possible to long haul of 2 trains only. It will improve to 40 kmph or even more.
Sir,
and proportionately, the cost of transportation will reduce.
Yes, that is okay, sir. But what I am saying is, sir, that increasing the 50 kmph is something that is conditional for achieving the National Rail Plan targets. If we don't increase to 50%, we cannot go to where a National Rail Plan wants to take us to. Therefore, the 50 kmph speed is not negotiable. I'm not negotiating on that. What I'm saying is,
how to increase it from the present 24.
Sir, that is not
great plan. You can write anything, but how to achieve that?
Yes, sir. That is something that we can discuss separately, sir. It's a long topic.
Ajay, as is this, can we take 1 or 2 more questions?
Yes, sir.
Ajay, there is a question or comment from Shubhranshu.
Yes, sir.
Shubhranshu, can you hear me, Shubhranshu?
Yeah. No, I switched off.
Shubhranshu has made a comment that the only thing that can challenge road freight is containers. So, can you elaborate on this?
Yes, I can. You see, if you look at the international container business, the graphs of USA, Canada, Brazil, China, you know where the Indian graph lies? It lies hugging the x-axis. It is indistinguishable from the x-axis. I can show you the chart. We have no container business. CONCOR has 65 container terminals, ICD or whatever you call them. All private operators combined have only about 15-20. They do not have any interoperability. You cannot bring one train of one operator into CONCOR traffic. CONCOR should be compelled to open its container depots to all container businesses and bring their traffic. The need for a rail regulator is most important just for this purpose. Imagine opening 65 plus 20 container depots for cross traffic across the country. This is the larger than USA. Imagine. So many 85 container depots ready to dispatch a train and receive anywhere with some cost sharing, terminal cost sharing. This will completely transform containers. If you look at the Concor, I just took out the graph on my iPad. Just hold on a second. I cannot share the screen, but if you can see this, if you see the small brown chart, small brown lines, those are the internal traffic, internal container traffic. And the only growth in container business of Concor is because of international traffic, which has been forced upon us because of ships. In other words, Concor has done nothing at all to containerize Indian business. Nothing, zero. They have done nothing. They had to be forced to open their container depots to other container operators at a reasonable cost sharing. That alone will give us 24% to 35% if we can beat the roads by containerization. There is no other way we can beat the roads other than containerization. Look at the American railroad, Chinese railroads, Canadian railroads, even Mexican, Brazil. Their container business is doing better than us. Just go to the AR website and see how container business is growing in an American economy which is not growing. Their bulk carrying, bulk like coal and food grain is coming down, and the container is growing leaps and bounds, because that is what Ajay Nandan is saying, is the high value commodity. It travels only in containers. The lowest hanging fruit is to containerize Indian business, not international business. We have to compel Concor. We are the majority shareholder of Concor. Call the board meeting and say that you damn well open your container depots. Everybody. No, imagine Ajay, opening up 65 depots.
Sure.
Ajay, is this container business reflecting in the GDP calculation of 14%?
Sir, that is what I am saying, sir. The national plan also says that if you have to survive, if you have to grow as envisaged in national plan, you will have to look at the bulk other goods and bring them in, and majority of those bulk other goods would be the containerizable other non-conventional goods. And that is the biggest emphasis in the National Rail Plan.
And so the biggest saboteur, Ajay, the biggest saboteur is Concor.
The
sabotage.
That is something that people will find a way to tackle. So once the national plan starts getting implemented, I'm sure people will find a way to tackle Concor either one way or other. That is a separate issue.
Okay, Ajay, so, I will come to Luthra's question once again.
Yes,
the
sir.
Point is, okay, if we take 14% as the benchmark and we want to go below it, that's all fine. But the question is that because of the economy, not because of Indian Railways' choice, but because we have to cross-subsidize this movement of these bulk commodities, you are not charging a realistic fare. Sorry, you are charging much more than you should. In that scenario, if you have to continue doing this 14%, even if coal carriage is not going to increase so much as per National Rail Plan, it would be very difficult to beat this 14%.
Sir,
so because after all, somebody has to carry that coal, right? And,
yes, sir.
So, yeah.
That's what, sir, there are two things. First, you said cross-subsidization. I will come to that later. What I am saying is that we are dependent on coal and ore to the extent of 50% today. What I am saying and what National Rail Plan also seems to be saying is that coal's total share in the railway commodity basket has to come down to 22%, and the total iron ore, core, and other bulk goods have to be restricted to around 30-32%. And beyond that, whatever is the new traffic that you want to add, that should come from the containerizable, non-containerizable FMCG, high-value goods or finished products. and your basically the basket's average cost will have to increase. I am saying it one way, and basically the national plan is not saying it so many words that it is the ratio which is important and not the numerator. So eventually you have to get into that.
From the chat, thank you. From the chat box, I can see
the second part of the question remains, sir, Mr. Luthra.
Go ahead.
Cross subsidizing of passenger traffic. To my mind, cross subsidizing is the jocular argument that we railway men has come up in defense of this 14% parameter. It's a joke and nothing else. Sir, you tell me, you are saying that this is the cost of my passenger traffic per NTKM and this is the cost of my goods traffic per GTKM, right, sir? Now you tell me, how do you arrive at the allocation of cost? Now the method that you have arrived in, that by which you are arriving at the allocation of cost is that 1 NTKM is equal to 0.8 PKM, which essentially means the cost that is that you incur for transporting 1 ton of material by 1 kilometer is equal to the cost that you incur by transporting 0.8 man for 1 kilometer. Is it not a joke, sir? So what I'm saying is this cross subsidization calculation itself, which was worked out to be 27,500 crore and I don't know what kind of fancy figures. It's nothing but a joke, and it's a defense mechanism that we railwaymen have taken in order to get out of this lambasting by the 14% stick.
Ajay, I agree with what you are
saying.
saying.
That 1 ton will cost same as 0.8%.
Okay, then, Luthra, 1 minute. In that case,
NTKM, GTKM cost that you are arriving at is an allocation of cost based on an assumption, and that assumption does not have any basis.
No, but the question is, the calculation may be wrong. I'm not going into the calculation, but if the net result you are saying is to increase passenger fare, then we are back to square one.
No, sir. I am not saying that net rejection is to increase the passenger fare. What I am saying is that you have to only increase the passenger fare up to a level that the public is, that the traveling public is willing to pay. What the market is willing to pay, you would charge only that much. That is okay. Sir, let me give you a small example. Let us say I am Ajay Nandan and you are my partner. So we make a Ajay Mani flour meals somewhere near Lucknow. And we buy all the food grain from Mohanlalganj and Bachrama and everywhere else. And let us say we buy 1,000 tons of gehu. And at the end of the year, we produce 100 tons of choker and 900 tons of atta. Now, how do you say what is the cost of manufacturing of choker and what is the cost of manufacturing of atta? If you assume that the cost is to be equally distributed amongst them as 1 NTKM equal to 1 PKM, that would mean that the atta and choker both are going to cost me 10 rupees a kg manufacturing cost. And then you would be forced to sell the atta. You can sell the atta at 20 rupees a kilo, while the choker will not be bought at more than 5 rupees a kilo. And will you, in that case, print on the packet of the choker that by great mercy of Mr. Ajay Nandan and Mr. Sudhanshu Mani, we have been benevolent enough to give you a 50% subsidy on the choker?
No, but I'm saying something else. You are right. No, you are right. But the net result is to increase the fare then, passenger fare.
Then why do you you will have to sell the choker at only 5 rupees kilo, which the market is willing to pay. You don't have any option.
Yeah, which means you have to increase the fare, right?
No, you don't have to increase.
Passenger fare.
You maybe instead of increasing the fare, you might then start to also produce 100 tons of maida, from where you will earn even more profit.
No, in terms of passenger versus freight. So what are you saying in terms of, let alone choker and atta, in terms of passenger and freight traffic, in terms of tariff, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that if you install a machinery or plant or factory, then there is a main product and there is a side product. The main product and side product both will have to be sold at a price that the market is willing to pay. You cannot wish away this fact. You are governed by the market.
Yes, Ajay, what is it then? Okay, no. Ajay, what do you do? What do you do in terms of passenger and freight tariffs?
Money, may I add something?
If you want to make profit, then you will have to come up from the same plant such offerings which are valued more by the market and which therefore you can sell at a higher cost. So you have to move up in the value chain. If you are not moving in the value chain, up in the value chain, you are doomed. And that is why the strategy has to be that in the passenger sector, you charge as much as the market can play. At the same time, you start offering those services which are valued higher.
Ajay,
and you can charge.
Yeah, Luthra wants to come in. Luthra.
May I say something?
Cross subsidy argument is no argument. It's a
Ajay,
joke. Yes,
may I add something?
Yes, sir.
There is no dispute what you are emphasizing. Okay. That is
Yes,
something we have to move up the value chain to earn more profit, and to at least show a better ratio of freight cost. That is okay. But if you are saying that we are overstating our passenger subsidy, I think that is what you are saying, that we have been consistently and always overstating our passenger subsidy. Then it has to first to be proven that that is so. Secondly, if you compare the cost of coal transportation per ton kilometer, I think we are twice the world average. Cents per ton kilometer, I think we are at twice. And that has got something to do with the fact that we are a passenger and freight railway, and we just spend a lot of money on passenger facilities. Freight does not require that kind of. So your argument that it is that ratio is wrong, that has to be validated first. You cannot just make an open statement like this.
Sir, what I am saying, sir, is that the cost of those two services, the way you are calculating, is
I agree. It may be imperfect, but
empirical assumption and is not.
I agree. I concede that point that it's an assumption and it may be overstated. But then somebody has to do it. We only have to correct it. We have to come out with a correct basis.
Sir, we are comparing costs, so we must bring it to a single platform. You can't compare PKM to a NTKM. Ajay,
anyway, gentlemen, I think I'll have Mr. Joshi question now. Is Mr. Joshi there?
We can take the Joshi.
Yeah, I am there.
Yes, sir. You
just
wanted to ask a question.
Point out two things. It is a very interesting talk and thought-provoking. That's why there is so much of interaction. Maybe it is my lack of knowledge, but I just want to question the basic calculation of the cost of the goods traffic, which he is talking about, in the sense that when we talk about the economy as a per se, as a unit, the model which goes into these ratios should be the economic cost of carrying the traffic. It is not. That means what has been, I presume so, that the cost which they are showing as the carrying cost of goods is what is charged as the RR receipt to the customer, multiplied by so many tons and so many tons and all that. That means you are not, if the productivity of this is 85% or 65% or 75%, then actual cost of economy is only 75%. It is not 100, which is being charged to the calculation. This is point one. Point two, Mr. Shukla is saying that you design wagon for the customer. In the railway industry, there you cannot have a proliferation of designs to satisfy every customer. Ajay Nandan gave an example of JSW Steel and Tata Steel. Ultimately, your benefit by having a standardization of the product which you can offer, and that we have already done. Containers. So as Shubhranshu said, it is the container traffic which is going to be the mainstay of Indian Railways if you want to increase your traffic share. The other 2 points I am making. Thank you.
Yes. Sir, the National Rail Plan, despite all the emphasis on containerization and these things, has only envisaged something like 22 to 25% container traffic at the end of 2050. So containerization will have to grow very, very fast. But at the same time, the total volume of that container traffic would be approximately of the same level as coal will be at that time. Because coal would have reduced to about 22, this would have gone just about 22. So containerization is the way to go. That is, there is no doubt about it, sir. And
I would like to just mention on Harish Joshi's suggestion, there has to be a balance between standardization and customization. It cannot be standardization at the cost of customization. We have to understand that if we want to attract new traffic, it cannot be through standardization. Standardization is for railways, but it is not for the customer. Where is the customer in the picture? Customer has to be a center pivot of our attracting traffic. Otherwise, we may be dealing with whatever we want to. We may live in our own world. We may be building dedicated freight corridors and everything. But where are the trains?
That is what I'm saying.
We have to strike a balance between customization and standardization. It's a very, very slippery pitch. It cannot be. There is no hard line between customization and standardization. We have to bear in mind.
But Indian Railway traditionally has never looked at
no traditions. Take your traditions. That is why you are 50% coal.
Correct.
That is the precise reason why you are at coal at 50%.
Right.
Because you have all the time thought of throughput and standardization.
Can I
all
see
those
Naresh
ideas
Kumar,
are
please?
thrown in the wind. There is no standardization. What customer wants, you have to deliver. How to deliver is your problem, not his problem. Again, you are putting your problem first. It doesn't make sense. The customer's problem has to be put forward, not the railway's problem. We have to build solutions within our parameters that you can say. But standardization has no meaning for him. It has meaning for railways.
Yes, sir. So the conclusion therefore seems to be that railway will have to become more customer focused. So if the customer wants customization, then so be it, and it should be given. If the customer wants to pay only this much, then we should be charging only this much. So we have to rationalize at a level, both passenger and freight, where we are matching what the customer is willing to pay for the service. That's what's the number one. What he is willing to pay, that should pay. And if he wants a customized solution, then we should offer that solution. And that is the up in the value chain. There is no other way.
That is very correct. Whatever customer is willing to pay, that only we can charge and should charge. In case of passenger traffic,
competitive service.
Amitabh, the next question from chat box, if you have any.
Is Naresh Kumar there? No.
Naresh Kumar.
Chandra.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Ajay, I have one thing. Although my conclusion is same, but I think Niti Aayog report says that this ये जो 14% की जो बात हो रही है, this 14% is about the constituents of this 14% is not all transport. It constitutes majorly of inventory cost, transportation cost, and other some administration cost or something. And that inventory cost is almost equal to transport cost in that fraction. Is about both of them constitute about 5%, 6%, 7% like that, and this makes it 14%. So yes, we should be talking about the 7% only. Number one. Number two is what I have found from US literature, that USA also had a similar figure way back in 70s, and there also the composition was almost similar. They went largely for containerization, and of course for inventory cost they have set up so many parks, logistics parks, in our case also probably government is now coming up with a lot of parks, as I read in the Niti Aayog report. The government has allocated an infrastructure project, and probably about 30 or 40 number of intermodal parks are coming up. But the next crucial point is the containerization. Of course, your conclusion is also the same. कंटेनराइजेशन के साथ ही जो कंटेनराइजेशन जब यूएस में 80s में शुरू हुआ, it goes on and on. They de-electrified Mexican and Canadian segments, and they redone the tunnels. They moved around to carry double stock, crisscrossed across the country, and that's why in year 2002 or 3. The King Coal was replaced as the main transport traffic of the railways after maybe 150 years. The containers became the major source of earning of US railroads in 2002 or 3, I suppose. So our focus should be containerization, as you also concluded. Subhranshu sir is saying so. And we got to with the OHE over our heads now, we have to have dwarf containers, as the US also has a large number of their own domestic containers, 45 feet, 52 feet, 48 feet, 3-4 segments are there, and they are wider also. They are wider by about 200 mm, 2600 millimeter ke hain. So we have to have our own and they de-stuff and re-stuff, because jo import export wo balance nahi hota hai, to containers इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं एक जगह. So we should be moving through our internal containers, which now the only possibility is the dwarf containers. So
yes, sir. But what you are saying is de-stuffing from import containers to domestic DSDC is something that Naresh has been pursuing for past 1 year. And I think CM Central Railway had told me that this has started sometime in January or February this year. The de-stuffing at JNPT. JNPT, in fact, has given the land for this operation in DSDC. So ISO is something which has already started. But DSDC is essentially thought of for promoting the domestic.
Somebody needs to go on mute, please. Somebody needs to go on mute, please. Please, आप mute पे जाइए. आपकी सारी बातें सुनाई दे रही.
I would request now that Indian Railways should focus on 4800 with full speed, and that is possible under OHE, under the existing rules. OHE के जो SOD की किताब है, SOD की किताब में लिखा हुआ है कि जब इलेक्ट्रिफिकेशन होगा उस वक्त ये जितने रेस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं, इसके शेड्यूल 2 में लिखा हुआ है कि जितने रेस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं सबको रिकंसीडर किया जाएगा. शेड्यूल 2 is all restrictions. So all the restrictions will be considered during electrification. So we must do it, and they are a very small segment. As I am told by Mr. Banerjee, retired GM, and also so many people have been here. The restrictions are very few. 8-9 ही हैं, और I think there's a Supreme Court judgment also saying कि what is this? You have to have only one SOD. Why you are having constraints like that? So we have to have 4800. That will solve a lot of problems, and we have to have articulated design so that we can take care of the lesser axle loads. So this is also something which is required. Both the SOD considerations and the axle load considerations should be considered together to really.
Please conclude. Please conclude quickly. We are running short of time.
So that we can really take it forward to that 6 or 7% cost of GDP that transport portion takes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll have one last observation from Amitabh. Yes, Devi, that
question from Swapnil. Swapnil, you had a question there.
Good.
Not a question there, sir.
Yeah.
Just a statement.
You have a statement. You can elaborate on that?
Yeah. Quickly, Swapnil.
So, sir, this was this was very interesting from Ajay Nanda to learn about a conversion between passenger kilometers and freight kilometers. And probably, and that was what I was writing out there, that railways for so many years have just been saying we are too complicated a system. No one can do our costing, and we are only based upon the pricing systems. So it was good to learn that. But if we are talking about coal-based railway systems, I think we have to look at a much more larger macroeconomic scenario. We finished up the coal-based power plants in India by charging higher coal rates, such that the coal plants started to go for imported coals. With pithead coals, what Ajay Nanda was talking about, that we'll have to look at growing the numerator and the percentage of coal will have to reduce. Don't worry, the percentage of coal will itself reduce because they will no longer take coal from you. They will either import it or they will have pithead coal plants. So what you emphasize is very right. The rail plan says you have to look for alternative ways of growing businesses as the GDP grows. As the GDP grows, alternative logistic options will have to be generated out. And probably that is where I completely side with what Ajay Nandan is saying. Indian Railways will have to explore new options for transportation. That's all that I have. Thank you.
One last comment by Satapathy.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
please, Devidat, please, 2 minutes, quickly.
2 minutes, yeah.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Sir, I have given some suggestions about this, how to capture freight traffic. Sir, after the implementation of GST, all goods and commodities are essentially moving on GST or UA bills. This captures the matrix of information that is regarding consignor, consignee, value, volume of goods, distance and destination distance. So we have that data with us that is digitalized. Sir, to start this, we have a total transportation study that was commissioned by Planning Commission, now Niti Aayog. That has given an idea how the commodity moves all across India. So what, sir, our Indian Railways should do to engage one consultant to capture that data. In that way, sir, we can find the best possible way to transport. And what Subram sir has already told, containerization is the future, sir. If we do not have that many containers, we can have the help of GATX, companies like GATX, the capital cost of wagon rakes invested by TMC, the terminal management companies, can be subsidized by 15, 20 or 25% on the freight charges for the first some rakes. Sir, for that we have to consult engage consultants like Manish Kumar, who is our in-house IRS EE1. Manish Kumar sir is there. He is providing this solution, sir. We have it.
Thank you, Devidat. I am also a consultant, and this government is very good because karna kuch nahi hai, but consultancy काफी हो रही है. It is very good for retired people who are doing consultancy. Thank you very much.
I have one comment, Mr. Mani, if you permit me.
Sure, sir.
I would like to expand the definition of containers into multimodal concept. It cannot remain only containers. It has to be many aspects of it. It could be road railer. It could be roll-on, roll-off. Ultimately, all this would mean multimodal system to attract new traffic. And that is why I feel that too much of focus on container is okay. But in addition, other variants of container, that is piecemeal cargo, will have to be taken in this fashion. Thank you.
Amitabh, I think we can conclude, Amitabh.
We are very thankful to Ajay for giving a very illuminating and very thought-provoking talk. We had budgeted for 1 hour. We are already at 90 minutes. So the kind of talk that Ajay has given and the thoughts that he provoked, I am extremely thankful to him and thankful to Mr. Mani for all this that we are doing. Tomorrow we are having another talk, and on a much more, also a very relevant and very topical subject that is on COVID vaccination being given by Deepak Sapra from Dr. Reddy's. So I'll send you the link after this talk. So tomorrow, same time, it is we can have our questions ready because all of us must be worried what the vaccine does, whether you have some immunity or you have no immunity, or what are the types of vaccine and what is his vaccine on this? So
Amitabh, I just need 1 minute.
Yeah.
So Ajay, it is a tribute to your thought-provoking talk that it generated such a lively discussion, often a bit inorderly. Our wagon is prepared and time revives us. All's well that ends well. That is Helena. In all well that ends well. But are we prepared really, and how? Well, will it begin? Who knows how it will end? Ajay Nandan, thanks once again, and hopefully in these gloomy times, you only think and talk wagons, but you are not really on the wagon. Thank you very much. One suggestion for tomorrow's talk: please change your login on Zoom so that your name appears, and just your designation or your some other description of your phone and so on is not good. I request that you change your Zoom in ID so that your name appears on the screen. Thank you very much.
What time? What time is tomorrow's talk?
Tomorrow, same time, sir, 18:30.
Right. Okay.
Deepak Sapra is a ex-railwayman, but he's a very senior executive of Dr. Reddy's. Travels all over the world with R&D and other marketing efforts, and he's also a very good writer and also a very good speaker. So we all look forward to. We have basic questions about the vaccine. And he will talk about vaccines in general and perhaps the Sputnik vaccine, which is coming to India. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ajay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ajay.
अजय
Yes,
तुम्हारा DRM पैनल बना कि नहीं?
पता नहीं सर। जमालपुर पे रहने के बाद सब कहाँ पता चलता है?
बड़ा चक्कर है।
Yes.
अभी रेक्यूपरेशन मोड में गया है सर ये जमालपुर बोर्ड के बाद।
तुम कहाँ हो आजकल? पटना में हो?
हाँ बिल्कुल सर, कहाँ रहेगा? पटना में लॉकडाउन में सर।
अच्छा, ओके ओके।
Let's go on, sir.
Okay. Right.
Thank you, Ajay.
Thank you, Ajay.
Right, sir. Good night, sir.